While marching down the streets of Mos Espa on a massive litter, two twin cousins of Jabba the Hutt declared that their territory was now theirs and that they intended to take down Boba Fett's new criminal empire. With them was a fierce black-furred Wookiee who went by the name Black Krrsantan, serving as the bodyguard and gladiator for the Hutts. But this isn't actually the first time we've seen this deadly Wookiee though, as he appears as quite a big character in the Star Wars 2015 Doctor Aphra and Darth Vader comics, including almost killing Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I'm going to break down the full history of Black Krrsantan and how he might play into the future of the Book of Boba Fett. Before we get into it, make sure to smash the subscribe button for more awesome Star Wars lore content. Very early in his life, Black Krrsantan was already facing a very harsh reality. While he was only very young, he was forced to flee from his home planet of Kashyyyk in exile, and was soon after labelled a disgrace to the Wookiee people. We find out this information from Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, and Obi doesn't actually reveal what happened, so I guess we'll have to wait for the Book of Boba Fett, or maybe even the Kenobi show to find out the answers on that one. Soon after, Black Krrsantan sought out a group of crime lords known as the Zonti brothers, who operated underground fight pits and pitted slaves against slaves. And this is actually where he gets the title of gladiator from, which we hear Boba Fett refer to him as. After fighting his way through hordes and hordes of slaves in the fight pits, Krrsantan actually made it to the Zonti bosses, and they were incredibly surprised to find out that a Wookiee had volunteered to fight in their arenas. Usually they'd have to capture them as slaves. They actually commended his grit and ambition, but quickly proceeded to stun him and place him in a cage. As you can imagine, this is something you should never do to a Wookiee for obvious reasons. Not too long after this, the Zonti brothers released Black Krrsantan and put him through a grueling training before eventually allowing him to fight a group of other captured contestants in a gladiator battle to prove who was the strongest. In the pit was a Tals, a Gamorrean, a Doatan, and a Sarlacc. Yes, a Sarlacc. The Tals was the first to be taken down by the Sarlacc, who also quickly took down the Gamorrean, but eventually he too fell. Soon after, Krrsantan took on a member of the Nikto species and absolutely obliterated him. The Wookiee forced the Nikto to praise the name Black Krrsantan, but immediately after he did this, Black Krrsantan snapped his neck and killed him on the spot. So if you wanted an idea of just how brutal Black Krrsantan was, there you go. Black Krrsantan eventually became the heavyweight champion of the arena, but swore to return one day and inflict the same pain that the Zonti brothers inflicted on him right back on them. This outrageously good performance in the arena led many of the spectators to inquire about buying Black K for their own purposes, but he was certainly not going to accept this. Some time then passes before Black Krrsantan becomes a hired bounty hunter for Jabba the Hutt, who was obviously the eminent crime lord of the Imperial times. Around 10 years before the Battle of Yavin, Black Krrsantan is hired by Jabba the Hutt to track down a mysterious old man who was getting in the way of him enforcing his water tax on the farmers of Tatooine. As part of this mission, he travelled around many moisture farms across the Dune Sea and eventually arrived at the homestead of Owen Lars, taking Owen hostage. This led Owen to scream out in sheer terror at the huge black beast, which caused a disturbance in the Force, which could be felt by nearby old Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi felt a severe pain and knew that Owen and by extension Luke were in danger. After Kenobi rushed onto the scene, he gave Krrsantan one chance to leave, but the big Wookiee had no intention of doing this. Instead, he wreaked absolute havoc on Kenobi, biting a massive gash into his arm, knocking him to the ground with a single swing. He then lifts Kenobi by the neck, choking him to within inches of his life. This was actually so close to killing Obi-Wan that he himself believed that this was the end, and that someone else must rise up to protect the only remaining hope for the Jedi in the galaxy. Very luckily for Obi-Wan though, Krrsantan threw him to the ground instead of finishing the job, because Jabba offered more money for taking in the man who stopped his water tax alive. Jabba wanted to punish and torture the man who got in the way of his tax. So because of this, Krrsantan traps Obi-Wan in an electro-net ready to take him to Jabba, and pushes Owen off of a nearby cliff hoping to kill him. This was a big mistake however, as Kenobi still has his lightsaber on him, allowing him to break free and force push Krrsantan painfully into a nearby rock. He also managed to use the Force to save Owen Lars from falling off of the cliff, but Black Krrsantan was enraged by this, lifting a tremendous rock above his head ready to crush Kenobi. In the heat of the moment, Obi-Wan managed to leap into the air with the Force and ignite his lightsaber, slashing Krrsantan directly over the eye. This is how he obtains his infamous scar, which we can see in the rest of the comic series, as well as in the Book of Boba Fett. So for those of you wondering where he got that scar, it actually came from Obi-Wan Kenobi. After this abysmal failure, Krrsantan was forced to flee Tatooine, knowing that Jabba would likely be disgusted at his incompetence. Now we skip ahead to just a little bit after the Battle of Yavin, where Darth Vader travelled to Tatooine in order to negotiate a deal with Jabba the Hutt on behalf of the Empire for supply routes. By this point, Jabba had forgiven Black Krrsantan for his previous failure and added him to the ranks of his most elite and feared bounty hunters. While on Tatooine, Vader used the opportunity to take on a bit of a personal mission of his own interest. He requested 2 bounty hunters from Jabba in order to search for the fabled rebel who destroyed the Death Star. He didn't yet know that Luke Skywalker was truly his son, but he wanted to investigate this famous rebel. In response to this request, Jabba gave Darth Vader his 2 top bounty hunters. One was Boba Fett and the other was Black Krrsantan. Vader sent Boba to hunt down the slightly more important target, Luke Skywalker, while Krrsantan was sent after an agent of the Empire known as Silo. Silo was deeply involved in cloning, augmentation and biological modification, with the end goal of creating for Palpatine a being that could replace Darth Vader as the Dark Apprentice. Vader obviously wasn't going to allow this, so he sent Black Krrsantan after him. Krrsantan eventually managed to track down the disgusting Silo and discovered that he was moving illegal alien body parts to a secret base in the Outer Rim. Unfortunately, Silo discovered that the black-furred Wookiee was following him before he could be led to the base, so Krrsantan pounced and captured Silo anyway without getting any extra information. Vader did though manage to get this information about what Silo was doing with the illegal body parts through his torture droid 000 anyway, but this marks another failure for Krrsantan. Soon after his contract for Vader expired, Krrsantan was summoned to a cantina on the planet Sontul, along with his fellow bounty hunters Bosk, IG-90 and B-Box, where Wookiees captured by Trandoshans fought each other for the entertainment of onlookers. While here, Krrsantan actually strangled one of the fighters and stole his place in the arena, becoming one of the only Wookiees to ever fight in the pits voluntarily, once again strengthening his title of gladiator, which Boba Fett calls him. After this little incident, Krrsantan travelled to the planet Vrogus Vas, where he brutally attacked Han Solo's Millennium Falcon by colliding with the ship, sending it to the ground. He then tried to capture Luke Skywalker on board, but Luke was protected by Chewbacca, who brutally assaulted his black-furred brother. Unfortunately, Chewie had just recently been poisoned by the droid 000, so he wasn't able to defeat Krrsantan. Black Krrsantan then got up and knocked Chewie out with his brass knuckles, before turning around and then grabbing Han Solo ready to kidnap him. Black K's luck though was just about to run out, and he accidentally electrocuted himself by punching the exposed arm socket of C-3PO with his brass knuckle. So yeah, he was not having a good day. So the next and final part of his story before we get back to the Book of Boba Fett comes after Darth Vader secretly hired Krrsantan, along with many other bounty hunters, to find the rogue archaeologist named Doctor Aphra, either dead or alive. Black Krrsantan eventually found Aphra, which Vader was pleased with, but what he didn't realize was that Aphra owed him money from an earlier bounty. Because of this, the Wookiee stole Vader's personal flagship, the Executor, and then fought alongside Aphra, all to defend his payday. Vader soon retook his flagship, however, and jettisoned Aphra into space, but the black-furred Wookiee actually chased and rescued her from the black void of space. After this, they eventually became good friends, and Krrsantan stayed in Dr. Aphra's crew for many years, sometimes though taking brief breaks. Following the Battle of Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back, Black Krrsantan stays loyal to Dr. Aphra and her crew throughout all of her escapades and attempts at evading Darth Vader's wrath, which, let me tell you, Vader is always after her. And that's where we hit the end of his current story. After that, he appears in the Book of Boba Fett, and we have no details to fill in the gaps just yet. I think he's going to have plenty more appearances in the show, and maybe even in the Obi-Wan show, Andor, and The Mandalorian, just considering how deeply he's connected to all of those characters. So let me know down below what you thought of episode 2 of the Book of Boba Fett, and if you'd like to see more of Black Krrsantan. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.